A healthy Kawhi Leonard is one of the reasons the Clippers have the third best record in the Western Conference. Leonard has played in 48 of the Clippers' 53 games. He's averaging 24.1 points and shooting at career-high 45% from three-point range. Keep your fingers crossed. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte with the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial. In a public opinion survey commissioned by KBLA Talk 1580 and conducted by Viteris, the black voters surveyed were highly enthusiastic about the March 2024 primary. The race for Los Angeles district attorneys being hotly contested. Incumbent DA George Gascon's efforts to implement progressive criminal justice reforms have generated pushback from within his own office, the broader law enforcement community, and some in the general public. He was the subject of at least 2 failed attempts to qualify recalls. The concerns about crime are reflected in the polling results of black voters. Nearly 1 in 4 have been victims of violent crime or have someone close to them who has been a victim. 1 in 5 black voters have personally been victims of property crime in the last 2 years. A majority of respondents feel less safe than they did a year or 2 ago, but they reject the notion that criminal justice reform has gone too far. This year, black voters will be looking for candidates who speak to the complexity of the issues as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. Nearly half of black voters have an unfavorable view of DA Gascon, but his challengers are largely unknown. Nearly half of the black voters are also undecided, which means there's a clear opportunity for candidates to connect with black voters. Our poll makes 3 things abundantly clear. Black voters matter. Black voters are closely following this race, and the candidates for DA have a lot of work to do. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to the mobilization and use of the franchise to empower our audience to identify and pursue their interests in advancing equity, inclusive representation, and multiracial solidarity. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. We welcome your feedback.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I am delighted to have you tuned into our program today. What a great hour we just had. Spirited dialogue, and I appreciate Ben Jealous immensely for joining us today in that hour. And this hour promises to be just as good. 2 conversations in this hour. In fact, on the B side of this hour, we'll be joined by Lisa Bob Simple, the Director of Stamp Services for the U.S. Postal Service, who joins us to talk about a new collection honoring the Underground Railroad. But we commence today's program in dialogue with Raven Jackson. The Independent Spirit Awards are handed out this weekend. We are in award season. You may recall we had Nichelle Turner, the co-host of ET, Entertainment Tonight, on this program a couple of days ago, talking about this very, very busy award season that happens about this time every year as we work our way toward the Academy Awards. But this weekend, it's the Independent Spirit Awards that are very coveted around these parts. They'll be, again, handed out this weekend. And among the nominees is writer-director Raven Jackson, who was inspired by her grandmother's photo albums to make an ode to Mississippi. M-I, crooked letter, I, crooked letter, I, humpback, I. It's called All, but that ain't in the title. That was just me kind of ad-libbing. It's just an ode to Mississippi. But it's called, I'm born in Mississippi, right? So y'all know I love Mississippi. I'm from the SIP. That's where I was born, so I can't help it. Her project is called All Dirt Roads, Taste of Salt. Take a listen.
Not too quick. Tighten it a little bit. Yeah. Slow, take time.
Oh, Lord, in your hand, oh, Lord, in your hand, arm in your hand, cover your love and
Take your time.
around me, so my enemies cannot
Now.
harm me.
There you go.
It doesn't end or begin. Just changes form.
Raven Jackson, first of all, congratulations on the Independent Spirit Award. It's an honor to have you on this program. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I love that introduction.
I loved it too. I'm glad you like it. If you like it, I really love it, since it's your project. Let me start with a couple of big questions and we'll work our way through this. The first question is this title, All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt. Tell me about the title first, then we'll talk about the project.
Yes, so the title comes from a conversation I had with my maternal grandmother, who is from Mississippi, and it was around the practice of eating clay dirt. And I knew that was the title of the film before I had even written a page of it. It comes from a poem I had previously written that has nothing to do with the film, but it was just I knew that was the title of it. And for me, the title speaks to, because the film explores the life of Mac and all the shades we experience in a life, all the shades of emotions. Mm-hmm. And she's very connected to water, and water is also connected to the eating of clay dirt, and that often it's after rain when the earth smells so rich that a lot of folks who eat it are drawn to dig for it. And so for me, the salt of it all speaks to this character's connection to the water and to I don't want to spoil anything, but to a tender moment or a tender experience in her life connected to water, but also to the beauty of nature and her connection to nature and place and family and all of that.
So when we come forward, I'm going to ask you to tell us a bit more about Mac. I think there are ways you can tell us about Mac without necessarily spoiling the story. So I want to hear more about who Mac is. So we'll learn more about Mac, the central character in the project. And for those who are not familiar with this notion of eating clay dirt, we do things a little differently down in the SIP. So for folk who've not heard about that, I know they're thinking right now, why would somebody eat dirt, much less clay dirt? We'll get Raven to explain that part as well when we come forward in celebration of her film called All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt, now nominated for an Independent Spirit Award handed out this weekend. You're listening to Raven Jackson, and I'm glad about it right now on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Are you ready to ignite your potential? Special Needs Network presents the CORE Workforce Development Grant, an opportunity designed just for you. You've been there for everyone else. Now it's time to be there for yourself. Whether you're a college student or a working professional, the CORE program is here to empower you on your journey. Get paid with free specialized diversity training, mentorship, and stipend to fuel your passion, power, and purpose in the behavioral health sciences. It's time to focus on your dreams while making a difference in your community. Don't wait. Visit snnla.org/core program to apply today. Be the spark that ignites connections. Your future is waiting. Again, that's snnla.org/core program. KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of This Light of Ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This Light of Ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This Light of Ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Tavis Smiley in conversation with Raven Jackson, who is the writer-director of a project called All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt. It is nominated this weekend at the Independent Spirit Awards, handed out during this Hollywood Award season. And so we congratulate Raven Jackson on the nomination and are pleased to have her on this program to talk about this amazing project. So tell me a bit more about Mac. We don't want to give the storyline away. I take your point. But tell me more about your protagonist, Mac.
Yeah, so the film lyrically explores her life, and it does so by fluidly jumping around at different points and experiences in her life. So, I think you'll see her at age 7, and then that'll spill into a scene of her in her early 30s. And I see her as a character who is very close to the earth, very close to her family, and it's really a journey through not only the profound moments that shape a life that we will experience in our lifetime, but also the more mundane, the smaller moments, the just looking at your grandma's hands and how those moments can echo and ripple out across, your life. Like moments you might think about years later, even if you don't know why. So I was really interested with this film in giving the quote-unquote smaller moments equal weight with the more profound.
Mm-hmm. You said Grandma's Hands. My mind went straight to Bill Withers. I love that Bill Withers track.
Yeah.
I miss Bill Withers was a friend of mine, and I miss him dearly. But I love that track, Grandma's Hands. Nobody could do it like Bill Withers did. That said, I mentioned moments ago that I want to get you to sort of unpack this. For those not familiar with the way we do things in Mississippi, and have never heard about people eating dirt, much less clay dirt, what is that about?
Yes, well, it's a practice of, so it's not just any dirt. It's not just any dirt. It's very specific dirt. It's very specific clay dirt banks. Mm-hmm. But it's a practice of digging for dirt, and it's different for everybody whether you put it into the stove or how you prepare it. But it's like a snack, and it has. It's a taste of it. Like I've had it, I've tried it from ordering it online, and my aunt makes fun of me. She's like, "You haven't tried this. You haven't had it straight from a bank," because I didn't grow up eating it, but my mom is familiar with it. Both sides of my family are familiar with it, but it's also different everywhere. For instance, in Georgia, it's white clay dirt. In Mississippi, it has red clay dirt. It looks different depending on where in the South you're digging for it. But again, it's a snack, and it's believed to have been brought to the southern United States through slavery. And it's been so many cultures have gone through years of eating clay dirt or eating dirt. It's been a lot of cultures that practice this.
Yeah, I mentioned at the top of this conversation that this movie, this film, was inspired by your grandmother's photo albums. This movie that is an ode to Mississippi, but inspired by your grandmother and conversations you had with her. That's how you get to the title, as you said earlier, All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt. My big mama, God rest her soul, Daisy Mae Robinson, was from Mississippi. I'm born in Mississippi, and I'm always fascinated to hear the stories about people's grandmothers. I want to ask you to tell me about your grandmother when we come forward, but no excuse like the present moment to just play a little bit with us. Give me some, Miles. Give me some.
Grandma's hand clapped in church on Sunday morning. Grandma's hand played a tambourine so well. Grandma's hand used to issue out a warning. She'd say, Billy, don't you run so fast. Might fall on a piece of glass. Might be snakes there in that grass. Grandma's hand.
Oh, I miss Bill Withers. He sounds just as good now as he ever did. All right, Raven Jackson, while we listen to Bill Withers, tell me about your grandmother.
Yes, well, my grandma on my mother's side, Grandma Hattie, she was a very quiet woman, but also funny, very, very funny, and she loved her family immensely, and she would sell sodas and snacks to kids in the neighborhood, and for like a quarter, for a nickel. And I just remember every time we would visit her home smelling so good, and just how the fan would go from side to side, and just I remember just summers there, and just the sitting in the comforting heat of her home, you know. We miss her. Yeah.
Tell me more about this conversation with her that got you thinking about doing this project. As you said earlier, you knew the title before you'd written anything for the film, All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt. Tell me about that conversation with your grandmother.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with her around the practice of being clay dirt that led me to coming to this title, which first was the title of a poem years before I came to this film. And when I realized, I'm ready to make a feature, this is the title of the film, I had more conversations with my grandma around the practice of being clay dirt. And there's a scene in the film, actually, where the character, Grandma Betty, is sitting with the two girls, the two sisters in the film, Mac and Josie. And that scene, the dialogue in it from Grandma Betty, there are certain lines where I'm pulling from a conversation I had with my Grandma Hattie around the practice. And so it was, I mean, it's a fiction film, you know, but there are a lot of emotional truths and details that I hold close in the film. And that's an example of that the conversations with her are threaded into like that scene, and then there are details or photographs from some of her albums on the walls. But it was always, I wanted to not only get the clay dirt eating of it right, like that was very important to me, you know, but just the details, like she helped expand the world, you know, and for me, and not only through her photographs, but through our conversations, we're talking about specific details of what the room would look like. You know, it was very, and also just getting closer to my grandma. These are conversations I wouldn't necessarily have if not for this film.
Explain for me as best you can what the experience was like for you going through your grandmother's photo albums. And I ask that because some of the best moments of my life, the best times have been spent going through my grandmother's photo albums, my mother's photo albums. I mean, nowadays cell phones are ubiquitous, right? They're everywhere, and we're so used to phones now. We take pictures of our food and we post it. I mean, we literally post pictures of the stuff we're eating in restaurants. I ain't mad at nobody if you're one of those persons. My point is that cell phones are so ubiquitous that we use them for everything. On the one hand, that can be annoying. Everybody's always pulling out a phone, and we don't want to be still and be present in the moment. Everybody wants to pull out their phone, and that annoys me at times. Sometimes the memory is more powerful than the photograph. On the other hand, I celebrate the fact that we have these cell phones at the ready. Why? Because we now get to, without any equivocation or hesitation whatsoever, any excuse, document our lives. And that's a beautiful thing, particularly for black people, because we have not been as good as others have been documenting our lives all the way through. So there's the yin and the yang, the good and the bad of these cell phones, these smartphones that are always around. But there's something special, at least for me, about sitting down, putting a photo book, a photo album in your lap, and going through these photos and asking your big mama, in my case, to tell me about this and tell me about that and who is this and when was this photo taken. There's just a joy sublime in that experience that I recall all these years later. So that's my story, but this is about you and your film, All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt. And again, it was inspired by your grandmother's photo album. So tell me about your grandmother's photo albums.
Yeah, the film is very tactile. I shot it on film. And to your point, with the cell phones, the film sits a lot in stillness. There are no cell phones in the film. And it felt, there's so much life in the albums. And they led to, I found, sitting with the photograph would lead to a conversation with my grandma, a conversation with my mother, and just the way, I remember I'm thinking of one photograph that just said apricot tree, and you just see this beautiful tree in the back. You know, just these beginnings of stories, it felt like, you know, and people's names that I never met who may have passed before I was born, but to be introduced to them through a photograph. You know, it was really beautiful to meet members of my family I hadn't knew existed previously in these photographs, or friends of my mother, friends of my grandma, and just see a lot of joy in the photographs too. I think that was beautiful, and to see these different, these people in my life existing in different decades, you know, that was, and in a way it mirrors how the film fluidly explores the protagonist's life. I was fluidly exploring, you know, the life of my grandma, the life of people I love, but also people I'm meeting for the first time through these photographs. And it also, for me, I saw a lot about place in these photographs. The characters in my film are very close to nature, and I mean, the people I come from are very close to nature. You know what I mean? And that I saw that a lot in these photographs as well.
Yeah, we just had a conversation for the hour with Ben Jealous, who is the first African American to lead the Sierra Club. So we were just talking about black people and nature, black people and space for the hour. So here you come now with this theme being woven into your film. So I love how the dots connect on this program all the time in ways I can't even imagine. I got just a few minutes left here. Let me just cover a couple of things I want to cover. So there's been so much that's been written about the state of Mississippi. A lot of good and a whole lot of bad. And I'm okay with that because Mississippi is not a perfect place by a long shot. It has a very, very troubled and bitter past. No question about that. And yet there is so much to celebrate about Mississippi. All of the music and all of the art and all of the written word. I mean, there have been so many American iconic greats who've come out of the state of Mississippi. And I'm always fascinated by the fact when people decide to do a project about the state, because so much has been done about it. And I'm wondering, okay, how is this treatment, how is this ode to Mississippi going to be uniquely different than all the others? So situate for me, to the extent you can, how you see your ode to the state of Mississippi in this film.
You know, I see it's an ode to place and people, and I'm being very specific in that. And, you know, a question I asked myself in the making of the film is, if our lives were the flood, what are the moments that would rise to the surface? And
hold up. Say that again. That's a great line. Say that again. If our lives
were to flood, what are the moments that would rise to the surface?
Wow.
And how would they speak to each other, swim between each other? And, you know, I feel, again, I'm being very specific with this film as far as like details, and we did a lot of research and the locations, and, you know, I talked a lot to my parents and again, looking at the photo albums, but I, from day one of making this project, knew I was interested in honoring people I love and know in the South, you know, and places I love, and I feel and hope that love is felt in the film. And there's actually a church, Rose Hill Church in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I discovered that church through Bill Ferris's photographs, and when I saw his photographs, this church was these photographs were from the early 1970s, and it felt perfect for the film. But I was like, there's no way this church is still standing. But long story short, I sent Bill Ferris a cold email. It was still standing. He was open to us location scouting it, and we ended up shooting there and building production for the film around the location because it's so special. And actually the song that we just heard at the beginning of the segment in the trailer is that's Mary and Amanda Gordon singing it, and they were pillars of Rose Hill Church when it was still in operation.
Yeah.
And so it's not just my history threaded into this film.
Yeah.
It's others and people I've never met only through song or through seeing them in someone's photographs, But for me, one way this is an ode to Mississippi that's very close to my heart is that there are a lot of threads of history in this film, and I'm grateful to be able to give light to those in a new way. Because again, that song existed before I found it, but now it's like it's meeting new people.
No, it's an old song. I've heard it sung many, many times in the Pentecostal church that I grew up in, and those two sisters sounded good singing it. It's a beautiful addition to your soundtrack for the film. All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt. That is the film from writer-director Raven Jackson, inspired by her grandmother's photo albums to make an ode to Mississippi, nominated for Independent Spirit Award this weekend. So, Raven, congratulations on the nomination. All the best to you this weekend. Thank you for the film project. Thank you for celebrating your grandmother. Thank you for the ode to Mississippi. And thank you for that line that I'll be noodling all day today. If our lives were the flood, what would rise to the surface? Congratulations, Raven. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
My great delight. When we come forward, the U.S. Postal Service with a new stamp collection, a tribute to the Underground Railroad. We'll talk about that on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The indictments in the troubled country of Haiti are expected to further destabilize its struggles with the surging gang violence and violent protest, demanding the resignation of current Prime Minister Ariel Henry. Delta Airlines will be offering flights with views of the total solar eclipse. The airline announced several flights for April 8th, with one flight specially designed to follow the path of the eclipse. Delta says other flights that day will also offer at least part of the solar eclipse view. The Mega Millions jackpot rolls over again. With no grand prize winner in Tuesday night's drawing, a whopping $525 million is up for grabs in Friday's drawing. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Can't wait weeks for your tax refund? Then don't. At Jackson Hewitt, get money today if you're approved for a no-fee refund advance loan on a prepaid card. Book today at jacksonhewitt.com. No-fee refund advance offered to eligible clients. Application required. Loans by Republic Bank. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Is this the dagger?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers are among the 32 NFL teams that sent scouts to New Orleans this week for the HBCU Combine. The Combine continues today. 47 players from HBCU schools are getting the chance to work out for NFL teams in hopes of getting drafted in April. Only one HBCU player was selected in the 2023 draft. Jackson State cornerback Isaiah Bolden was taken in the 7th round by New England. The NFL would like to see that number go up this year. The league created the HBCU Combine because most of the players are unlikely to get invited to the NFL's main combine, which starts Monday in Indianapolis. A healthy Kawhi Leonard is one of the reasons the Clippers have the 3rd best record in the Western Conference. Leonard has played in 48 of the Clippers' 53 games. He's averaging 24.1 points and shooting at career-high 45% from three-point range. Keep your fingers crossed. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Wendy's Breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles lets you choose your perfect duo from your fave 4, like a sausage or egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, or medium hot coffee. Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in the combo. Single item at regular price.
Are you facing an unexpected financial emergency? You need WeFixMoney.com. WeFixMoney.com can help you get up to $3,000 fast. WeFixMoney.com is free to use, available 24/7, and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Go to the name you trust, WeFixMoney.com. If you need emergency cash up to $3,000 for bills or anything else, type WeFixMoney.com directly into your browser. That's WeFixMoney.com.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste, so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
And I'm glad about it, and I'm delighted to have as our guest right about now Lisa Bob Semple, who is the Director of Stamp Services for the U.S. Postal Service. I'm interested to hear more about this new collection honoring the Underground Railroad. Lisa Bob Semple, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well, and I'm delighted, as I said, to have you on this program. Let me start with a couple of broad questions, and then we'll get specifically to this Underground Railroad collection.
Okay.
So give me a sense of how the post office goes about, how the Postal Service goes about deciding what will be or can be on a stamp. I mean, I'm always fascinated. And it's very the process seems to be very creative because for those of us who love stamps and love running out to get them when you all announce them, it's fun. It's a hobby, and over the years I've got a pretty decent collection now of some of the stuff y'all have put out. But I've never quite understood the process of how these decisions are made, what's on the table for consideration. Give me a sense of the process.
Sure, that's a great question, Tavis. So essentially, the Postal Service works with a committee. The committee is actually called the Citizen Stamps Advisory Committee,
okay.
CSAC for short. And this is a committee that's actually appointed by the Postmaster General, who's essentially the CEO of the Postal Service. And the CSAC really represents the U.S. citizens, if you will. And we try to find folks who have different expertise across the country. And we have about 10 to 15 members who we bring together every quarter. And we get thousands of stamp suggestions by the public. And all of these suggestions that come in by the public are then shared with CSAC. CSAC then looks at all of the stamp suggestions and topics and really tries to find a mix of, what stamps commemorate the best of who we are. Try to look at how do we have a broad range of stamps, right? Who are we honoring? How do we have stamps for, different types of, individuals, whether you're a historic buff or you love the arts or you love, animals. So really trying to think about the breadth of the stamp collection, if you will. Believe it or not, it's about a 3+ year process. So sometimes we have, stamp suggestions that come in that take a while. But through CSAC and with their guidance, that's how we determine what stamps are going to actually be commemorated. We do about 30 or so commemorative stamps a year. And then what we typically do is vote on the stamp or vote on the stamp subject. Mm-hmm. Then we then work with art directors and designers to create the stamp to see what that stamp would actually look like, and then produce and develop the stamp.
Since we're in a presidential election year, not to make you political, but you'll take my point, there are certain things that one has to do, certain marks one has to achieve to run for president. Now, anybody can run so long as you are 35, so long as you are a U.S. citizen, so long as, so there are a couple of things that one has to do to run for president. I am curious as to whether or not there are certain things that one has had to have done in his or her life or career, or conversely, are there things that one can do that will make you automatically not on the list of consideration for being on a stamp? And I ask that because there have been stamps I've seen, and let me just say very quickly, I celebrate this. I absolutely celebrate this. But I've seen certain folks on stamps, Lisa, Bob Simple, that I never thought I would see on a U.S. postage stamp. Let me start with Malcolm X. There was never a day in my life that I thought I would ever see Malcolm X on a U.S. postage stamp, and I was so thrilled when y'all released that Malcolm X stamp. So my question, you understand, when CSAC sits down to make these considerations, are there things that automatically put you on the table, or things that automatically keep you off the table?
Well, obviously, if we're going to be commemorating someone, we want to make sure that this is a positive person, if you will, to society, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to keep that in mind. Typically, just so you know, we don't actually have, as you may notice, a live person on the stamp.
That's right.
So you typically have to be dead for 3 years before we'd actually commemorate you on the stamp, except for the case of a president. Mm-hmm. But we really want to think about somebody that we want to honor that's as extraordinary, who has made some sort of contribution to American society, history, culture, etc. We want to make sure that, if you think about, again, if you're going to honor this person, because this is truly one of the best honors a person can get, right? Mm-hmm. That this person is, quote unquote, worthy of this honor, if you will. But we also want to be honoring somebody that it's going to cause, society or consumers to kind of maybe pause, think about this person, maybe research that person more, So part of the beauty, I think, of stamps is to really be able to plant the seed for people to go and do more research, right? Find out more about this person. Like, what is it about that person that really inspired, the best in our nation, if you will? And so it's really an opportunity for us to be able to, you think about history and for, consumers to dive more into that person and their background.
I love that you know this stuff so well. Of course, you should. You're the director of the Stamp Services Program at the Postal Service. But I'm learning a great deal about how this process works that I didn't know. So I learn stuff on this program every day. As I always say, I leave this studio smarter, Lisa, than when I came in. So I'll be smarter today because of this conversation with you. So, all right, tell me about, and I'm excited to hear about this, tell me about this new collection honoring the Underground Railroad.
Yeah, so let me just take a little step back.
Sure.
So just so you know, or so your listeners know, we actually have a Black Heritage Series stamp, right, that started back in 1978. And so every year we actually honor a specific figure or individual, right, on it. So it started with Harriet Tubman many, many years ago. And this year we just recently honored Constance Baker Motley.
Oh, yes.
So we do that every single year. We typically alternate between having a male and a female honored on the stamp. The Underground Railroad stamp, though, is something that the Committee in Postal Service has been thinking about for many years, actually, right? But this just really seemed to be the right time to be able to produce the stamp. And this is not a decision the team took very lightly. Because really, when you think about the stamp, we have members on the stamp or folks on the stamp who are well known. We have some that are lesser well known, right? You have folks that are on the stamp that were commemorated that are Black, that are white. And so we really wanted to be able to show with the Underground Railroad, the movement. We wanted to feature folks that were well known and not well known, be able to feature folks who were actually, slaves to escape, but also those who helped the escapees, because we wanted to be able to show the breadth of the program, right? And so as you can imagine, being able to show something like this in a stamp, right, and be able to put together all those different thoughts and all those different elements you wanted to explain is not that easy to do, So our designer over the years had been toying with it, and then the team really felt like we had, a lot of information over the last couple of years. We worked very closely with the Park Services. We felt like this was the right time to bring this to life, to be able to, use this moment in our history to be able to showcase how we had all these different people participating in this movement, and to be able to, I don't want to say celebrate, but maybe celebrate, commemorate, and mark this important time in our history.
Okay. So when we come forward, I want you to tell me specifically how they did that. I have in front of me the names of the persons who were featured on these stamps. It is a pane of 20 stamps featuring 10 sepia-tone portraits of men and women who escaped slavery and or, as Lisa Bob Simple just said, helped others to escape. When we come forward, we'll tell you who those 10 persons are. In this pane of 20 stamps, you're listening to the Director of Stamp Services at the U.S. Postal Service, Lisa Bob Simple, right now on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Let's get back to more of Lisa Bob Simple, who is the Director of Stamp Services at the U.S. Postal Service, as we talk about this new collection honoring the Underground Railroad in February. Is a pretty propitious time, I think, for that Black History Month. So as I mentioned a moment ago, there's a paint of 20 stamps that features 10 sepia-tone portraits of men and women who escaped slavery, as Lisa said earlier, and or helped others to escape. Shall I run the list, Lisa, or do you want to run the list?
You can run it, Tavis.
All right, so it's Catherine. Before I do that, as Lisa said a moment ago, some of these names are well known, some of these names are not so well known, but this is the task that CSAC had, putting together a storyline of those, again, who escaped and those who helped them escape. So some of these names you may not know, but this is the story that they're telling through this stamp series, this collection. So the names are Catherine Coffin, some guy named Frederick Douglass, Thomas Garrett, Laura Haviland, Lewis Hayden, Harriet Jacobs, William Lambert, Jermaine Logan, William Steele, and some woman named Harriet Tubman. My sense is this is probably what? You tell me if you know. This is the second, third time. How many times Harriet Tubman been on stamps now?
Yeah, I think it's three, actually.
Right. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. She made it on there 3 times. Is there anybody to you? I'm putting you on the spot right quick here. Anybody that you can think of has been on 3 different stamps?
Not that I know of, but don't quote me.
Yeah, I won't quote you. I got you on the spot. I didn't think you might know that. That you would know that rather. But that it seems though pretty unusual that one fellow citizen would be on the stamp 3 different times.
Yeah, but it was actually a conscious effort, though, to have people who were well known, like Harriet Tubman, but also have people who were lesser known as well too on the stamp. Because really, what we want to be able to do is by having the well known people, right, at least creates awareness and interest, right? Like, oh, I know Harriet Tubman, let me learn more. Oh, but who is this other person, right? So part of the beauty of stamps is, I think, creating that dialogue and again, sort of that history. So we wanted to be able to draw, people and to be able to find out more about that person they maybe knew about already, but also find out about those lesser known individuals who are all part of the movement.
When we come forward, our remaining moments with Lisa Bob Simple, who is the Director of Stamp Services at the U.S. Postal Service. I was kind of laughing to myself, like, okay, I'm going to check being on a postage stamp off my bucket list. I got to check that off because I can't be dead 3 years. Not right about now, before I even get considered. So just a little joke. All right. Anyway, more when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Meet Cheryl. Hey. She's on vacation and lost in the moment. Unfortunately, so is her Chase debit card.
It's gotta be somewhere.
Maybe she lost it at salsa night.
These skirts should have pockets.
Or maybe she lost it at Pilates.
3 and 2 and...
But she's not worried. With the Chase mobile app, she can lock her card till it turns up. Tools that help protect. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Sounds different. Huh. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Lisa Bob Semple of the U.S. Postal Service. She is Director of Stamp Services. I got about 3 minutes left with Lisa. Time for a few more questions. Okay. So one, it seems to me, I mentioned earlier that I've enjoyed collecting this black series. What's the formal name of the series of black stamps? The black. What do you call it?
It's called Black Heritage.
Black Heritage, yeah, Black Heritage, yeah. So I've got a few of these stamps in this Black Heritage series. My sense is that Black Heritage series has been received rather well by the public. Yes.
It definitely has been. It's actually one of our best-selling stamps, to be honest with you. I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your favorite Black Heritage stamp, Tavis?
You know, I'm still. I must tell you, this audience knows. This audience knows that I regard Dr. King as the greatest American this country's ever produced. So my answer, my default answer is Dr. King because he's my hero. But as I said earlier, I was just blown away by the Malcolm X stamp. And I thought it was a very, and the other thing was when I heard, I'm glad you asked this question. Maybe you'll be a talk show host one day when you leave the Postal Service because you're asking good questions. When I heard that there was going to be a Malcolm X stamp, I heard about it before I actually saw the stamp. And so the first question I asked myself was, I hope they don't do Brother Malcolm wrong. I wanted to be sure that they were going to do right by Malcolm in terms of the photo, in terms of the look, in terms of the image of the way his face was contorted. I just wanted to make sure it was a great photo. And I can't speak for the family, although I know his daughters, Atala and a couple others, are friends of mine. But at the end of the day, I was very personally pleased with the look on his face, the imagery I thought was beautifully done. So I celebrate the Postal Service for doing right by Malcolm. So that's a long way of saying I love the Martin stamp, of course. I love anything Dr. King, but I really, really love the Malcolm X stamp. I loved it. Let me ask you a question right quick.
You're not.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're not alone in in what you just said. When we actually came up with that stamp, the overall consensus it was a good choice and a bold one for the U.S. Postal Service to make. Many people, I think, had that same, wait a second, Postal Service is doing this? But exactly. I really think that, we really felt like it was the right time to do that. And when we think about this, the image you're going to put on the stamp, we really want to have that person at their prime, if they will. So we do work very closely with the family to make sure the stamp image is going to be something that they too feel proud of and that they like.
No, I loved it. And I thought it was, to your word, bold. It was a bold decision because Malcolm clearly had a critique of the American empire, and for the Postal Service of this country to honor him nonetheless, I thought was a beautiful and bold thing. I got 60 seconds left. I know that CSAC, I now know because you've taught me this in this half hour, I know that CSAC makes these decisions about who gets on the stamp and what they're going to celebrate. But remember Donald Trump put his name on those checks that we all got during the pandemic. So my question is, can a president fiat himself on a stamp if he wanted to?
Can a president do what, did you say?
Can a president fiat? Can a president put himself on a stamp if he wanted to?
Well, we typically do commemorate the presidents, but they have to be dead first before they actually become a stamp.
Yeah. My question is, can a living president, if Donald Trump gets reelected, could he tell the post office, y'all gonna put me on a stamp?
He can say that, although eventually when he does die, he will become a stamp.
But who knew?
I'm not going to get political with you.
No, I understand. But who knew that Lisa Bob Simple also does comedy? She does comedy. If he did do that, he would become a stamp. Oh, that was a good one, Lisa. Anyway, Lisa Bob Simple is Director of Stamp Services at the U.S. Postal Service. I'm delighted in this conversation, learned a great deal. Congratulations to you and the team there. CSAC for this great decision to honor the Underground Railroad. Thank you, Lisa. Good to have you on this program.
Thank you, and check us out. The first day of Israel's event is 11 a.m. on March 9th at the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Vision Center. Look us up online to be able to get more information on that.
We thank you for that, Lisa. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.